Hello, I'm Terrence Affer Anderson, and this is Health Watch. There is a word in healthcare whose root in Latin means hospitable reception. In French, it translates into a rest house for travelers. Now I'm going to throw you a curve. This word is often paired with another whose own roots in early 15th century French and Latin means undercloak, covert. Have I stumped you? Do you know what words I'm speaking of? Words frequently used in tandem in healthcare. The Latin root of the first word I mentioned is hospitium. It can also mean entertainment and hospitality. But for purposes of our show today, the most appropriate definition to which it refers is the relationship between a guest and his or her host. In case you still haven't figured out where I'm going with this, let me help you out. The French root of the word is not much different from our modern usage, though it means something just a tad bit different. The word is hospice, or simply hospice in the Old French, but in its early usage it chiefly meant a house of refuge, especially one that was managed by monks who lived in the French Alps in the early 19th century. So maybe you now know that the second word I was referring to is palliative. Invariably, the French and Latin roots are palliatif and palliatus. Palliative care is designed to make patients comfortable, to provide relief from the symptoms and pain and physical and emotional stress often accompanied with a serious illness. So that is our topic today, hospice and palliative care. And as always, I brought on board some seasoned experts who can help us navigate through this topic. I will introduce each by name in just a moment, but I can think of no more of an appropriate introduction than to share how their agency has personally touched my family. Anyone who knows me well knows that I've touted recently that my mother celebrated her 94th birthday a short while ago. But last year, she suffered a major illness that more spoke of the sometimes disheartening ravages of age than the sudden onset of a medical crisis. Now, you have to understand that my sister Kathleen had already been taking care of my mother for some 15 years. This is after having earlier done same for my father for the previous 10 years until he passed in 1999. But things had changed dramatically for my mother last year, and she needed more formalized professional care. That's when the Frida H. Gordon Hospice and Palliative Care of Tidewater Center stepped in. They are my guests today. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Jessica Willingham, Administrator, Hospice and Palliative Care of Tidewater, and David Lineberry, HPCT Community Relations Executive. Guys, welcome to Health Watch.
Thanks for having us.
We're excited to be here.
I thank you for everything that you're doing for my family. I absolutely, really, truly appreciate this. Let's get right into the show. Jessica, I had a shameless attempt to impress my viewers with some scholarly etymological understanding of the words hospice and palliative care. But what do they really mean?
Well, hospice and palliative care, the words are often used interchangeably. They both mean comfort care, it's a philosophy of care, and they're both used in a holistic approach.
And a holistic approach, and defining holistic again for our viewers, what does that exactly mean?
It would encompass all aspects, you know, not only a physical aspect, but emotional, psychosocial, spiritual. They look at the whole person, not just the patient, but they also look at the family as well. We see the patient and the family as a unit.
That is very evidenced by the care and attention that you guys have given my mom and the family. And again, we all are truly very appreciative. Now, my mom has a care team that includes a CNA, a certified nursing assistant, an LPN, a licensed practical nurse. Mm-hmm. The CNA comes on a daily basis. The LPN comes twice a week. But there's also an RN who manages the care. Is that the typical care team for someone in hospice and palliative care?
Yeah, a typical care team has a registered nurse that oversees all of the patient care, mm-hmm. a CNA, also known as a certified nursing assistant. We have social work support, chaplaincy support, as well as volunteers through our volunteer department. And together with the family and the patient, we create what is called an individualized patient plan of care. And so some family members and patients may not get all of those services. It just depends on what their needs are. And even we have a registered nurse available to you 24/7 for emergent needs after our office hours.
So it's an individually constructed plan based on the individual needs of the person in hospice.
Yes.
And the family.
Yes.
Now you kind of alluded to this in your answer just now, but what are some of the other services provided by hospice and palliative care at Tidewater?
Well, you know, during our visits with the patient, we're going to focus on pain and symptom management. You know, other symptoms may be shortness of breath or anything like that. We also provide the emotional and psychosocial and spiritual support while we're there. We provide medications related to their terminal diagnosis, equipment, medical supplies, and even incontinent products. You know, while we're there, we're supporting and teaching our family members on how to care for their loved one. We also provide speech therapy if needed, physical therapy, occupational therapy. And on some occasions, there are a need for a different level of care other than just your routine care. And that would include like a general inpatient level of care. At times, the pain and symptoms can't be controlled in the home, so we put them into a facility so that we can control those. And there's times when the family members get overwhelmed and have a caregiver burnout, so we can offer an inpatient respite level of care to offer that support to the family. And there's also another level of care that's provided in the home, and that's what we call a crisis care or a continuous care. And that would be for when someone has uncontrolled symptoms and we need to be there providing intensive care for a minimum of 8 hours. So we don't leave your side until they're comfortable.
Now, when is a good time for someone to think about hospice?
The sooner the better. You know, a lot of our patients and families have told us, I really wish I would have brought your team on sooner.
I see. And this is a question I'd like to ask to both of you, and then I'm going to come directly to you with a specific question. How does hospice care begin?
Well, yeah, anybody can request a consultation, and you know, that's a free consultation. We come to wherever you are and talk about what that care might look like. But for a person to be admitted to hospice service, they need a physician to certify that they are terminally ill. And you know, we don't have that crystal ball. No one has that crystal ball, but we do know that there's key indicators that we can look for, and that may be increased hospitalizations or frequent trips to the ER, things such as reoccurrent infections, changes in weight and appetite, maybe even falls. So all of that is evidence of decline.
I see.
Yeah.
David, did you want to add to that?
You know, I would just like to kind of point out the personal experience that we had,
Right.
You know, your mother being in a facility, and, you know, we were sat down, your family and myself, and we basically educated you and your family about what services we could provide for your mother and your family. And then certainly once it was all agreed upon that this would be something of benefit, then basically, you know, I contacted the office and we got the ball rolling, and shortly thereafter she was admitted into our hospice services.
I remember that moment well, and you were a great service and assistance to us, you know. From that encounter, I could see a lot of what you were speaking of, Jessica. I have done more than 120 editions of this show, and I've talked about all kinds of health concerns, but that particular moment, because it was my mom, you know, like everyone else, I was terribly anxious, and you helped allay those fears. And I guess I was anxious because there was some things that I didn't know. But there are still a lot of myths about hospice and palliative care. Can you address some of those?
That is absolutely correct. There is a large number of misconceptions that abound in the community regarding hospice, and I'll highlight a couple of those. One is hospice is just a place. Hospice is actually a philosophy of care that embodies the mind, body, and spirit. So it's not a physical physical place that someone actually goes to. Another misconception that we get a lot actually in our everyday workings is that hospice means that the patient will die soon. And that is very contrary to the reality. And the reality is patients who are on receiving hospice care actually live longer than patients who are not on hospice care with very similar terminal diagnosis and medical conditions.
Now, is that because of the maintenance that is provided through the care?
There's a lot of number of reasons. I think that the patient is not stressed, is not in pain. They're more comfortable at home or in their surroundings that they're most familiar with, and they're comfortable. Mm-hmm. And that is the primary reason.
I see.
So,
okay. Did you want
a couple other myths is that family. If you choose hospice care, your family has to leave, they have to leave home. That is very contrary. That allows people like yourself to care for a patient in their own home in the comforts and privacy of their own home. So, and then lastly. Families are not able to care for life-limiting illnesses, and it's certainly, we are an integral part of helping families and educate them about what they need to do to keep their families in place.
You know, my sister, Kathy, that I mentioned earlier in the open, served as my mom's primary caregiver, still does, for a number of years. But she had a procedure recently, had surgery, I was hospitalized, and that is when myself and my brothers and sister, Edith and Albert Jr. and Carl and I, we stepped in to assist in that care. And it became very apparent to us immediately that all that Kathy was enduring on her own, and we would step in and help her by relieving her. We had no idea how important that relief was to her, because she didn't suffer from caregiver burnout unless she hit it very well. But what type of tips would you give a family that is interested in providing hospice care?
Well, hospice and palliative care of Tidewater is a resource and also a support mechanism for families very similar to yours. And as you know, as you just touched on, caregiving can be very taxing and challenging at times. And the caregivers, at times do need to take a break. And at Hospice and Palliative Care of Tidewater, we can provide respite care for that caregiver and provide a place for the patient to go, such as a skilled nursing facility, for up to 5 days to give that caregiver the much needed rest that they deserve.
When I saw that appeared to me one of the most exciting and dynamic aspects of the type of services that you guys provide. I did some research in preparing for the show, and I went to the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, the NHPCO, and I got some statistics that I wanted to share that between 1.6 and 1.7 million people received hospice care in 2014. The average length of care that year was 17.41 days, a decrease from 18.51 days in 2013. It reported that the average length of service increased from 72.6 days in 2013 to 71.3 days in 2014. I have two questions. What is the distinction between hospice care and hospice service? And why do you think those numbers declined over a period of 12 months, 1 year?
Well, hospice care and hospice service are interchangeable terms, and the accountability for the possible reason for the decline in the length of stay could possibly be to a lack of education within the community. Mm-hmm. So education is a very vital role in helping people through this service. And it also goes back to one of the myths about people feel like they'll die soon once entering hospice services. So as a result, people are reluctant to get onto hospice services sooner. And as a result, as we had just mentioned, people do statistically live longer on hospice services versus people who are not on hospice services with very similar medical conditions.
I guess the whole name has some connotation that is wholly inappropriate, wholly inadequate. I mean, my mom is a good example because there was a time where when she was hospitalized at the rehab place, man, it was very, very scary. But that was well over a year ago, you know, and she's doing well. One of the other things I saw in the National Hospice and Palliative Organization website was the location, the places where people are being hospice, or pardon me, where people are receiving hospice. I was using a past participle that doesn't exist. Where are these places? What kind of percentages are we talking?
Okay, so hospice and palliative care of Tidewater will provide services wherever a patient wants to call home, whether that's in their own private residence, whether it's in a assisted living facility, or even a skilled nursing facility. So we will go to wherever the patient calls home. Most people want to stay in their own private residence and live their days in the comforts of their own home and the privacy of their own home.
And the venue, the location for that to take place can be varied. It can be basically anywhere.
Absolutely.
Jessica, can you give us some insight on the demographic profile of people that are receiving hospice by gender and also by age?
Well, the NHPCO data tells us that primarily, well, really it's almost half and half, 54% is of the female population, and 46% is of the male population. And
those are pretty close.
yeah, they are.
How about age?
Yeah. So 84%, approximately 84% of the patients that received hospice care in 2014 were older than 65, and 41% of that were greater than 85 years old. And
41%.
Yeah, and you know, only 1% accounts for the pediatric and young adult population.
What about the demographics by ethnicity? How does that break out?
Well, again, through the NHPCO and these national statistics in 2014, it's primarily Caucasian at 76%. And then we see at 8%, or approximately 8% for African American, approximately 8% for Hispanic or Latino. And for our agency, you know, looking when we're out in the community and we're talking about hospice services to minority groups, we're seeing that there's a lot of interest and acceptance to hospice and palliative care. So I think those numbers are going to change over the next couple of years.
Yeah, because that is a great disparity.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it because of cost, do you think, or is it's probably a combination of things? Cost, adequate insurance coverage, as well as probably just a lack of information?
I think a lot of it is a lack of information. You know, most individuals older than 65, they've got the Medicare, and Medicare covers hospice 100%. So I don't feel like it is, you know, due to not having the appropriate insurance. And even our agency will take people or patients on board, whether or not they have insurance or not. So that's not.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, yeah. As our a nonprofit agency, we certainly take patients despite their ability despite the ability to have a payer source. Yeah.
Any idea of what kind of percentage you're speaking of?
It's very rare for people not to have a payer source.
Okay.
I would say almost 98% of our patient population has Medicare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
David, one of the other things I saw on that website, National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, is the primary diagnoses of people who are in hospice. Can you give us some insight on that?
Yes, and actually, you know, there's another myth out there that, you know, hospice is only utilized for cancer patients. And if you look at the demographics or the percentages, cancer accounts for about 37% of all hospice patients, where other non-related other non-cancer related diagnoses account for about 64% of those diagnoses. And those diagnoses include dementia, ALS, HIV, AIDS, heart disease, and also pulmonary disease as well, such as COPD.
COPD, yeah. So there is an array of different diagnoses that people can find themselves in hospice.
That is absolutely correct. And it doesn't have to be a cancer diagnosis. It just has to be a terminal diagnosis with a life expectancy of 6 months or less.
Now, I went to your website and I noticed that you have a newsletter called Embracing Every Moment. And in the news section, I saw an article on palliative care and referrals to or from emergency medical concerns.
Correct. And basically what that article suggests is that patients are now seeking treatment at the emergency room for their uncontrolled pain symptoms. They might not have the knowledge of caretaking at home. And palliative care is often underutilized in the healthcare system in various departments. This case being the emergency department. And what this allows physicians, it actually gives the physicians an opportunity now to talk, emergency room physicians, to talk about end-of-life discussions with the patients and families. And having that conversation as early as possible is so critical, and it's very important to have those conversations with the patients and families that they deserve.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit more off the cuff, so to speak, here, off script. But I want to make sure before we get to that point that you give some contact information on your Frida H. Gordon Hospice and Palliative Care of Tidewater.
Yes.
And, go ahead, let's get the contact information first.
Okay, so Hospice and Palliative Care of Tidewater is located in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Our phone number is 757-321-2242. We can be located on the web at www.hpctidewater.com, and we also serve all of Hampton Roads, including the South Side, Peninsula, Isle of Wight, and also Suffolk.
Who was Frida H. Gordon? This is a good question. Have I stumped you?
No, absolutely not. You know, Frida Gordon was a well-known woman in the Jewish community, and she cared a lot about end of life and, you know, quality of life. And several years ago, she herself got cancer, and at that time there was no agency in the Jewish community that offered hospice services. So they had to seek services through another provider in the community. And for those of you who don't know, we're jointly owned by Jewish Family Service of Tidewater and Beth Shalom Village. So we're a Jewish hospice agency. And you know, she thought so much about end-of-life care, and so did her family, that they helped us get started. And so we named our agency after her.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
That is a very good story. I have, and in my family, there is a long tradition of partnership between the Jewish community and the African American community. You know, and that is not at all surprising to me that my mom would get the quality of care that she's getting from a place called the Frida H. Gordon Hospice and Palliative Care Association of Tidewater. Any last words that either of you would like to have?
You know, I think that people are so afraid of just the word hospice, and if people can get over that word, and you know, the services that are provided give so much support to the patient and the family member, and provide so much quality of life. So, you know, I would just say if we could get past that ugly H word, we could really see how wonderful and that benefit is.
I think that's why the long introduction was so important, because when you look at the root of those words, I don't know about palliative because it meant covert and so forth, but when you look at the root of hospice, again, it meant entertainment and hospitality, a house of refuge, that was managed by monks in the French Alps in the early 19th century. You know, so it would be great if we could do something to improve, you know, people's perception of hospice, and that's why I think it's so very important to do this show today. David, anything else you'd like to add?
I just wanted to say that we are honored to be able to come into your mother's home and provide care for her, and we're also so appreciative to be a guest here on Health Watch with you.
Well, it means all the world to us personally, and here with the City of Norfolk and the folks here at WHRO. We're very delighted to have you on board.
Thank you.
And we want to thank you so very much for joining us. Before I go, what I'd like to do is to give you some information, some contact information for the National Association of Hospice and Palliative Care, that organization. We're going to put that up on the screen in just 1 second. I'm going to give you that website. That's www.nhpco.org. Again, that's www.nhpco.org. And as always, we want to thank you for joining us for this edition of Health Watch. It's been a very insightful and moving one for me personally. I enjoyed it tremendously, and we hope that you got some great insight from this particular show. As always, if you want to see previous editions of Health Watch, you can go and to find us online at www.norfolk.gov/HealthWatch. If you want to give me a call, you can reach me at 757-683-8836. Again, that's 757-683-8836. My email address is terrence.affer-anderson@vdh.virginia.gov. Guys, again, we want to thank you so very much for joining us for this edition of Health Watch. Please be sure to tell all of your friends that we have such exciting programs and guests coming on to this show to talk about important, pressing health issues. I'm Terrence Affer-Anderson, and this has been Health Watch.